Hi everybody. Sorry for all the gizmos, but I'm not having a good arthritis day today. That's all I'm going to say about that. I've been challenged to do 10 non-yarny things about me that you may or may not know. A lot of you will already know them if you've been following me for a while, so I'll cut it brief really. I was born in Royton, which was a little tiny sort of village. When I say village, it was like an urban village because it had lots of cotton mills in there. So I was born in Royton, like I said. I was born in 1945, so I got the tail end of the war. I got the rationing and all things like that. But I never felt deprived as a child because my mum and dad always managed to provide enough for us to eat. You know, I won't say it was the best of meals and everything, but we always had enough to eat. I did have an older brother. Sadly, he passed away 3 years ago, the day after my lovely dog Buster died. He was born in 1937, 38, somewhere in that region, I've forgotten. Might be 1938. My upbringing was I went to a church CRE school, even though my father was technically a Roman Catholic and my mother was C of E. They had to wait until the family weren't around and they snook off and they got married. And of course, back in the day, if you got a special licence and you got married, everybody thought that my mum was pregnant, but they had to wait 2 years before my brother was born. I went to the usual, like I said, church schools, and then I was fortunate enough to go to the grammar school, which it was good and it was bad. It was good in the fact I had a good all-round education, but it was bad in the fact that I followed a very, very extremely bright brother. And I got sort of like, oh, you're Colin's sister, are you? Oh, we would never have guessed. Because, of course, I struggled. I wasn't dumb by any means because I got 7 GCEs, as they were in those days. Not GCSEs, GCEs. And I did actually get accepted to go to Liverpool University. I was going to do occupational therapy, which is kind of up my street really. I don't even know if they do it now because people don't stay long term in hospitals. It was to encourage people who'd had strokes and had things wrong with them to use their fingers to make basketry and all things like that. And every craft was geared to use the muscles that they had lost the use of. But sadly, I had to be rushed into hospital to have my appendix taken out on the day that we were going, and they were allocating the rooms in hall, like the dormitory or whatever you want to call it. And so even though they said I could go, I would have had to find my own accommodation, and I was sheltered child, very quiet type of thing, and I just didn't want to do that. I just didn't want to have to go and face with private landlords and things like that. So I said to my mum, I'm not going, I'm taking the year out. And with that I started working at the bank, and then I started working later with my mum and dad, and I never got to university. I don't know whether that was all one or whether that's 1, 2 and 3, I've lost count. Anyway, another thing that you may not know was I danced ballet from being very small, and I actually had an appointment and an interview to go to RADA, which is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, when I was probably about 7 or 8. I passed the theory, I passed the dancing, but when I came to the medical, our family has a trait where we've either got short fingers on both hands or whatever, where the fingers are short. Mine aren't, but you've either got 2 little fingers like that, or you've got 2 little toes. Well, I got the little toes. And the doctor that was doing the medical examination decided that I wouldn't be able to withstand all the point work. So I got rejected. But looking back, I don't think I realised at the age I was that the RADA was in London, and that I would have had to leave home and go and live in like a boarding school kind of in London. That hadn't dawned on my little mind. So I was heartbroken for quite a long time that I was stomping around saying it's not fair, I can't go to I can't go and do ballet, that man is stupid, that doctor's stupid. Looking back now, of course, I'm glad I didn't go. What else have I got here? It's all out of whatever. Yeah, my arthritis and stuff started at the age of 12. I was acting silly at school and we were sliding on ice down a slope by the side of the dinner hut at school. And I fell and everybody thought it was hilarious and they all piled on top of me. But what they didn't realise was my knee was twisted up underneath me. And it made such a mess of it. In fact, I would have been better if I'd have broken it. But back in the day, what we're talking in the 50s, like, there was no such thing as cartilage operations and stuff like that. So that was the beginning of my knee problems and also the end of my ballet career. And I'm quite a little, you wouldn't think so looking at me now, but I was quite slender and I was quite a little gymnast. I used to be a very fast runner. I used to be we did 100 yards, I don't know what you do over there. We did the relay and hop, skip and jump, that's like the long jump and stuff. And then we did the high jump and I was very good at all of those things until I had my accident and then that put a paid to all of that. What else do you not know about me? Oh, I posed for a naked knitting calendar, as some of you might have known. And I also appeared on local TV. And I was also on YouTube videos, on 3 of them I think, where I was interviewed for things that should have gone on BBC. But in the end they decided not to use our portion of being filmed. It was kind of like going to be groups who followed on in the wake of the Women's Institute who did the first naked calendar. And theirs wasn't a naked knitting calendar, theirs was just a naked calendar. And in the end BBC didn't have time or didn't want to screen it and we didn't get screened. But I've still got the videos, they're still on YouTube. They asked me nicely. But we're not naked. The BBC wouldn't have naked. We're draped in shawls and things. Well, you all know I had 3 wool shops. When I didn't go to uni, I went to work in a bank. And that didn't work out very well. I was bullied, I suppose, at the bank. I was bullied and all sorts of things. And I suppose you might say I was sexually harassed by one of the cashiers. But of course, in those days, you just obeyed your elders, you know. So when he wanted to, you know, put his arm around me and give me a kiss and cuddle in the vault or wherever we went, or downstairs where we have the tea room and that, I just took it in my stride thinking that was that kind of normal. But what made me leave in the end was not that, was I booked my holiday and I went in and told them I'd booked my holiday and they said, oh no, you can't do that. You have to wait, you're the junior, you have to wait until everybody else has booked their holidays. I said, but I've booked it now, paid for it. They said, well, you'll have to unbook it. So I said, well, when is my holiday? They said, oh, you can have May or you can have September. And I said, well, for those days I used to holiday in the UK. Only young, you know, 18 or something. And I was going with my friend. We were going down to St Ives in it's Devon or Cornwall. And so I said, no. I said, I'm booked my holiday and I'm going. So I got a lecture off the manager for being insubordinate and that. You realise I could ask you to leave over this because you know what the rules are, blah, de, blah, de, blah. So I said, oh, I'll save you the bother. I said, I'll hand you my resignation. So of course I goes home, my mother's like, oh, you've done what? I said, told them I'll hand my resignation in. They're not pushing me around, they're not bullying me into having May or September for my holidays. I said, I've booked my holiday and I'm going. So with that, I was out of work, so my mum said, well, why don't you come and work in the shop? So, a long story later, we finished up with 3 wool shops and I didn't sell the last one until I was about 53. recession hit and people weren't knitting at the time, and I just couldn't keep it afloat. I was going through a divorce, even though I'd been separated many years before that. I was going through a divorce and I needed money to keep the house afloat and stuff, so I had to find myself a job. So I then found myself a job, first of all in a perfume warehouse, which didn't do my back much good. By this time I really had a bad back. Serving perfume, going up and down in the warehouse, finding it all and stuff like that. And then I found a job working at the job centre, which is finding people who didn't want to go to work jobs. So that was a test. We had to go on courses for handling difficult situations, because you can imagine if you're trying to make somebody go for a job and they don't want to work, it can get a little bit hairy at times. I've had a few unfortunate experiences where people have thrown things at me. One of them was a computer off the desk that got thrown at me. And I got a pen thrown at me as if it was a dart. It was just missed my eye. They threatened to burn the house to the ground, and they do all sorts of things, And then they wonder why, I can handle most situations now. Things don't faze me anymore. So when people get a bit sort of antsy with me, on the PC or anything, it doesn't bother me at all, because every name under the sun I've already been called it, so there's nothing, I mean, one guy was rambling on to me about how fat I was and how ugly I was, and I said, well, there's obviously nothing wrong with your eyesight. I said, so there's nothing wrong with you filling in this form for a job. I had an answer for everything. They didn't get the better of me. Right, let's turn over the page. I've been in 3 car accidents, all of which I was stationary at the time, at traffic lights and whatever, and people have walloped me up the back. So I've had 3 whiplashes, which has resulted in the fact that I've now got damage to my spine at the top of my neck as well as my lower neck. And I have constant headaches all the time, and it affects my shoulders and my arms. So whoopee-dee. And none of them got prosecuted, even though they blatantly didn't stop. They didn't even slow down. They just rammed right in the back of me. So I wasn't very happy about that. Well, I've had a replacement knee, and they want to do the left knee as well, but I've said no because the right knee's not been a success. I also need a replacement hip, which I'm putting off for as long as possible, even though it aches like fury at times. And as you know, I've got a plate like that in my back with screws. When I went for my last injection, painkiller injection in my spine, the nurse said I had a very impressive metalwork in my back. It's funny though, because when it's cold and wet, I can actually feel it cold, I know it sounds weird, but it's actually, if my back's cold, the metalwork is cold, So I often have to put heating pad and that on the back of me to get me warm. Right, what else have I done? I sailed in a 28-foot yacht all around the Greek islands. I wasn't a solo sailor, I was crew. That was an experience, because 28 foot is not that long. It's not that big, and there's 4 people living on board and 2 children. But it was a wonderful experience. And because I'd liked it so much, I did go back to Skiathos, but it is like 6 years ago since I went. And that is one place that's on my bucket list that I would dearly love to go back to, is Skiathos. It's a beautiful place. Well, as most of you know, I've got 1 son. There would have been more, but it didn't work out that way. It wasn't that I wanted 1, I wanted 2 actually. But God decided not to give me more than the 1. I was married for 22 years. Well, actually I was married a lot longer than that, because we were just separated for years after we split up. I think I was probably actually married about 30 something years. We didn't live together, obviously. I've got 1 son who married into a grown-up family. So now I've got 3 grandchildren who are in their 30s really now. And my son has gained 9 grandchildren? two are well, none of them are his blood grandchildren, but he treats them as if they are. So he's got 9 grandchildren, although 2 of them are step-grandchildren. So from someone who didn't want to get married when he was a teenager, and even when he was in his 20s, he said, if I do get married, you won't have any grandchildren off me, because I'm not having any kids. Karma, son, karma. You've got 9 of them now. I've had my nose broken 4 times. I had it broke when I was 17, when I was attacked. I got to have stitches all down my mouth and that. And so that was the first time it was broken, but they just left it. They just said it would set on its own, which it did, but at a peculiar angle. And then my son broke it again when he was little. By accident, he was just playing and he was kicking his feet out and he booted me with his shoe and broke my nose again. Again, they didn't set it. And then I had to go in hospital because I was having breathing difficulties. I think you all know I wear a CPAP machine when I'm sleeping because I stopped breathing. I don't know how many times a night, but I stopped breathing. And they decided that my nose was crooked at the top, which obviously had been broken twice then. And so they broke it and they reset it all. When I tell you, people who have their noses broken for cosmetic reasons, why? It was the most horrendous thing ever, ever. And it looks so simple on the TV, doesn't it? But oh my goodness, I had headaches and everything. And it was horrendous. I couldn't breathe at all. And then when that didn't work with me breathing, I had to go in, and they discovered I had some suspicious looking nodules on my voice box. So they lasered off the nodules on my voice box. They also took my tonsils out at the same time because they were closing in and I had nowhere to breathe, you know. And so they thought that might be a reason why I kept stopping breathing when I was sleeping. And then I also had my uvula taken away. That's like your little clacker thing that waggles about at the back of your throat. I had that taken out. I had all the roof of my mouth lasered. So I've had some fun things done to me, haven't I? And then below me, I broke my nose again after all of this and going through all of this. I was taking off the water bottle at work because nobody ever changed it, only me. It was always empty when I wanted some water. So I was wiggling it like that, this big canister, wiggling it, and it wouldn't come. And then all of a sudden it came, and boom, underneath my nose, wouldn't you just know? Anyway, I went back down to the hospital again, and they said, they just wiggled it, and they said it was just broke at the top, so they didn't want to do anything with it. They just reset it, kind of thing. But it's still broken at the top. It still deviates to one side, but I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So I think that's kind of all I need to tell you, really. I didn't do them in numerical order, and I've probably given you about 20 instead of 10 things that happened to me. And if you want to know how I got the bad back in the first place, it actually started with childbirth, which we won't go into because could be gentlemen watching. That's where it started in the first place, because my son was breech. Not going into details, but it was horrendous. And then I just recovered from that when my ex-husband was washing the car at the front with the hose pipe. And I was going to put some things in the dustbin. And he didn't realise I was going to step over it. I mean, honest, he didn't do it on purpose. He'd no way to see it. He must have just yanked the hose pipe just as I was stepping over it. So I went flying and really hurt my back. So that was like the start of it all happening. And then after that it just went downhill on a toboggan. And I've still got back troubles, as you know. So, but hey ho. But this week I've been suffering with the arthritis, query fibromyalgia, because I can't bear to touch any of my muscles, you know, sore all up there. Ugh. So I haven't done I've picked up a hook and done about 2 or 3 rows this week. All the tidying I was doing has got stopped, so, but that's by the by. It'll get done eventually. Anyway, that's about 20 things that you may or may know about me. I'm hoping to make a video tomorrow because I think Sue's coming. Although she has got a really bad cold and a cough. So she's coming tomorrow, so we may make a joint video. I probably won't have done any crocheting because, as you can see, I haven't slept in them last night because it's the only way to stop me curling up my hands. I curl up my hands when I sleep and it makes everything worse. And I can't open my fingers in the morning. Oh, it's fun being old, isn't it? It's fun. It gets more fun with every year that passes. And on that cheerful note, I shall... I think it's almost bedtime actually for me. It's time I had an earlier night. So I say bye and possibly I'll see you tomorrow. So bye bye now.